planets out there. But more specifically, we're talking about this one molecule that the scientists now believe is a telltale. If you remember,
What's that?
is trying to
It's
analyze
JN Crest
Why?
notification.
strange
Mhm.
patterns of oxygen and carbon
Why it
dioxide.
doesn't
And a lot of
pop
other
up
gases
here?
such as methane that seem to suggest that there's something life-like going on the planet. The biggest
Ouch.
sign here is, of course, oxygen. So, in some sense, the detection of oxygen on various planets can indicate that there's maybe life. But oxygen is also produced naturally. More specifically, the solar radiation, for example, can easily create oxygen by striking the molecules of water. There's other ways oxygen can be produced, so just detecting oxygen on the planet somewhere is not
What?
exactly just discovered.
I hear that.
And something similar is
I am.
molecules like methane, which
I don't like this.
Mm.
I like the other one.
And
Mm.
some way is a little bit hard to explain. It could technically be also
It has candy.
Mm.
so in that sense, neither methane nor
I don't
oxygen
like the
nor
candy.
any other organic molecules that are commonly associated with life here on Earth can easily be
Oops.
said to be produced by life because we've detected many of these molecules out there in space, often around various asteroids and comets, or even just in the middle of various gas clouds. And for the past few years, scientists have been actively trying to identify these so-called fingerprints of life. Essentially, various molecules that can be identified as biosignatures as only produced by life. They've already looked at something like 16,000 various molecules, and they've identified at least one such molecule that seems to be exclusively produced by life.
Laboratory.
Terrestrial
Old
planets.
phone.
This molecule right here, known as phosphine,
I don't
has
know.
been recently
Kitchen table.
identified in the study as the
Can I have it?
telltale sign of a
Of
life
course, love.
signature,
You can go take it.
only produced by life. More specifically, non-oxygen-related life that would be almost impossible to explain in any other way.
Mm.
So first of all, this molecule is found in many different
Ah.
locations on our planet, but it's found in very strange and very places.
Na, 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 na. Oh, you're so sweet.
Hey,
Thank you so much.
Early on, when the oxide was still not really in existence on the surface, but there was a lot of other materials, including methane. But even today, the presence of phosphine is always associated with some
Yeah.
sort of life.
Oh no.
Either life
On,
inside
on,
the
on,
fish
on, on.
guts, or the life inside penguins, or some other bacterial life that eventually ends up producing
Miguel Love, shout
phosphine as a chemical
out.
leftover. Because for the most part, any aerobic or oxygen-breathing life on Earth doesn't really want anything to do with this molecule. Phosphine is known as a sticky
Ay,
gas. It's also super toxic, and
ba't
it's also a
ganyan yung
flammable gas.
title?
But what's, I guess, most interesting is that it's always produced by various anaerobic or non-oxygen bacteria that's present here on the planet and is never produced in any other inorganic way. And the MIT researchers, specifically Clara Sousa Silva, who was the main researcher behind the study, essentially tried to create this in any way possible. They actually analyzed this gas in many different ways. And she even studied this very thoroughly for about 10 years. And in all of her discoveries, she discovered that there were only two major ways this gas is produced in the galaxy. Either inside really massive gas giants through some really extreme heats and under a lot of pressure and temperature. So basically, both Saturn and Jupiter have quite a lot of phosphine in the atmosphere that can be detected with various probes. Or it's produced here on Earth, but only by life. Nothing else seems to be able to produce this molecule in any other way. In other words, let's just say that we find phosphine in the atmosphere of Mars. This would be a telltale sign that there is bacteria that's producing it and not any other geological event, suggesting once and for all that Mars definitely has life. Now, we obviously haven't found it yet, but the scientists behind this paper also identified very specific light signatures that phosphine would produce that could then be detected by various telescopes in the future. On top of this, the scientists have also established a very thorough analysis of molecules that can be used in the future to identify other biosignatures as well, allowing us to expand the list of biosignatures.
Ready to start eating healthier?
Kachava is the world's healthiest all-in-one milkshake. Hello, wonderful person. This is Anton, and today we're going to be talking about the hottest planet in the solar system, Venus. But more specifically, we're going to discuss the possibility of life here, especially based on some of the more recent studies. So imagine an object that is so extremely hot, acidic, and filled with so much pressure that even the toughest Soviet probe only survived here for like 2 hours max. As a matter of fact, that probe was able to take a picture that sort of looks like this after processing. So this is Venus, the hell of the solar system. How could we talk about life possibly existing here? Well, when the Soviets discovered that the temperatures and pressures and the acidity here was just too extreme, they more or less abandoned further missions. They
It's my legs.
found here. In 1963, Carl Sagan wrote a very interesting paper proposing that even though on the surface of Venus there might be no life, we could potentially find something in Venusian atmosphere. And he even identified a region in the Venusian atmosphere that is currently referred to as the habitable zone of Venus. This habitable zone is anywhere between 47 to about 70 kilometers of altitude, and essentially it's the region where we can technically expect temperatures and pressures very similar to those right here on Earth, anywhere between minus 20 to about 65 degrees Celsius, with pressures of about 1 atmospheric pressure, and the only problem being, well, a lot of acidic clouds more specifically. But that never really stopped some of the bacteria here on Earth. As a matter of fact, in one of the recent videos, I talked about the extreme waters and lakes of the Delos volcano, which have some of the highest acidity possible, actually. It's basically pH of 0, and very high temperatures and also a lot of acidity. And many lakes here do have life. Some don't, but many do. And this suggests that some of the more extreme bacteria could technically survive in those upper layers of the Venusian atmosphere. And the thing is, there are a lot of signs pointing at some unusual, strange activity in the Venusian atmosphere. More specifically, we have recently discovered what seems to be climatic changes, or basically something equivalent to, I guess, seasons of the Venusian atmosphere, where the temperature and also, most importantly, these unusual patches do change in size depending on the year. And today, many scientists actually think that the unusual dark patches that have been observed inside the atmosphere, or the so-called dark UV absorbers, as they're also known, could may be caused by some sort of bacterial organism that is absorbing the UV light and is using it for its life purposes. In other words, there is currently a lot of scientists believing that Venusian life could actually exist in the upper atmosphere. Now, this would not really be a surprise because we do have bacteria living in our atmosphere and even upper atmosphere. While at the same time, even though technically Venus currently looks like this is a composite shot taken by the Venera missions back in the 70s. Once upon a time, we think Venus looked
Give me
very much like
some.
Earth. It had oceans, it had very likely a lot of atmosphere,
Mhm.
possibly
And I
oxygen,
have.
and for all we know, it may have had life. And some of that life survived
Oh my
the Venusian upper atmosphere.
god.
And so the most recent study assumed that there could be life here and decided to investigate if it can survive other dangerous to life phenomena, such as, for example, the cosmic rays that strike Earth and, of course,
Hey.
The billion-dollar dental industry does not want you to see this video and discover the fastest, most powerful gum and teeth rejuvenating secret.
Excuse me.
And so, without further ado, let's actually leave our planet Earth and go for a little adventure to the third biggest galaxy in our local cluster. Now, the most famous galaxy that is not Milky Way is Andromeda. You've all probably heard about it. You've all probably maybe even seen it. In the skies, it's very visible if you are in a location that has very dark skies. And it's basically the largest object that we have in our dark skies, and at the same time, one of the farthest objects you can see. I'm going to show you where it is located in space engine by basically leaving our galaxy, the Milky Way, pointing at Earth by doing the following. So there's Earth right there, and now we're going to look for Andromeda. And so if I just turn a little bit to the left here, you'll notice that right there's an object that seems to be galactic in shape, and that's Andromeda. But today we're going to be talking about the third large galaxy in our local group of galaxies that has about 60 various galaxies to begin with. This object is right here, and it's known as Triangle. It's kind of in the same direction as the Andromeda Galaxy, but it is significantly smaller. So as a matter of fact, if I actually use my binocular function here, so there is the Andromeda Galaxy, this is what it looks like, and there is the Triangle. Now, what is so interesting about Triangle? First of all, it's not as well known. As a matter of fact, if you're a gamer, you might have actually only heard about it once. It only appeared in one game I can think of, in the game Crisis that came out in 2007. The aliens were actually from this galaxy right here. The Seth were from Triangle. But that's the only reference I actually can think of to this galaxy. And it's not that we don't think it's important. It's actually just as important as Andromeda, but for some reason it's not as popular. Anyway, we're going to go to it right now. I'm going to explore it in more detail, starting with its structure. So this is about 2.8 billion light years away from us. In other words, the light from this galaxy takes about 2.8 billion light years to reach us. In terms of size, it's about only maybe 40% of mass of the Milky Way, and it only has about 40 billion stars compared to about 400 billion in our galaxy. Its diameter from end to end is about 16,000 light years, so this is about half of what our own Milky Way is. And in terms of the actual visible mass versus dark matter, about 20% is so-called baryonic matter, so basically visible matter, and the rest, which is about 5 times 10 to the power of 10 masses of sun, is the invisible dark matter. Now, what's interesting about this galaxy is that it is essentially a spiral galaxy similar to our own Milky Way, similar to the Andromeda Galaxy, which is right there and visible quite clearly from Triangle. But unlike Milky Way, this particular galaxy is classified as just spiral galaxy without an actual bar in the middle. If I were to go back to the Milky Way and to look at it from, I guess, this angle here, you can kind of see that there's actually this bar-like structure in the middle that actually classifies our galaxy as a bar spiral galaxy. Whereas the Triangle Galaxy doesn't have that, so it's called just spiral galaxy without the bar part. You may notice that one of the main differences between the Milky Way and this is that it has a lot more of these bright spots everywhere. As a matter of fact, there's at least like 515 various really bright spots like this here and this there. So in other words, nebula or supernova or possible star formation ridges that are really, really prevalent in this particular galaxy. Interestingly, just from observations and comparing this to Andromeda Galaxy, we know that in this particular galaxy, there's like 4 times more stars that are being formed at any moment than in the Andromeda Galaxy. So even though this is actually smaller by mass, it's a lot more
What are you
active
doing?
and
Just
more stars, which is why
Nobody's there.
you're not talking or anything.
especially this one right here.
Just talking to myself.
Very visible, and it has actually quite a lot of interesting stuff in it.
Where's your friends?
Let's
You have no
actually
more
revisit
friends?
this for a second, just so we can see what it looks
Don't
like in
you
more
care?
detail. This is known as NGC
I'm not
64.
from.
Very interesting.
I'm poor.
Kind of see there's a bit of a cube
I'm
here
a poor
in its shape,
poor.
and looks absolutely incredibly gorgeous. Now, what's really interesting about this galaxy is that it was actually discovered a long time ago. As a matter of fact, the first person to discover it was an Italian astronomer by the name of Giovanni Codierna, and he discovered this sometime in mid 1600s. Then, about 100 years later, this was classified as a kind of a nebula by Charles Messier, who was the astronomer and is famous for the Messier catalog, which is why this galaxy is also known as M33. So if I click on the galaxy, you'll see that it's going to be listed as M33 right here. That's because it's the 33rd object that he listed in his catalog. And sometimes this is also erroneously called the Pinwheel Galaxy, although in reality, Pinwheel Galaxy is actually something a little bit different. It's the galaxy known as M101, and it's located right around there. So that's actually the Pinwheel Galaxy, and this is the Triangle Galaxy. And the name Triangle actually comes from the constellation where you can discover this galaxy, which is also known as Triangle. Once again, because this used to be known as a nebula,
Once
before we
again.
identified this as a galaxy, we actually thought that this was a nebula in the constellation Triangle. Now, there's another really cool feature that we discovered about this galaxy, and that's actually the interaction between Triangle and the Andromeda Galaxy. We've discovered that they actually are connected to each other through various streams of hydrogen, but also through a very thin pathway of stars that's kind of invisible in this view.
Oh my God, my neck.
Actually, a pack of stars next to them, which suggests that a long time ago, maybe 2 or possibly even 8 billion years ago, these two galaxies came really close together and they actually interacted with one another. And this also means that in about 3 billion years, and will either get absorbed into it or possibly
Why I didn't want to watch
very
movie?
likely will actually get absorbed into the
Yeah.
union of our own galaxy, the Milky Way, and the Andromeda Galaxy, because we know for a fact that Andromeda will one day collide with the Milky Way and will create what we sometimes call as Milkdromeda. And so maybe, just maybe, this galaxy right here, known as the Triangle Galaxy, will actually join the union as well. And so maybe, just maybe, we'll have to call them the Milkdromeda Galaxy. I don't know, maybe have a better name posted in the comments below. But anyway, so yes, it's a pretty exciting galaxy. A lot of new stars are formed here, a lot of really cool things going on. And this is actually the location where we've discovered some really about 2 billion year period, and maybe a little bit more. And eventually, in the next 2 billion years, all of these galaxies will actually form a relatively large cluster that we're probably going to be referring to as four clusters for still around. And so just to give you the perspective of this again, so imagine all of those galaxies you see here, right? And now we're going to return to space engine and kind of try to position things this way. So this is the Milky Way, that right here is Andromeda, and we're basically currently moving in this direction over there. And somewhere over here, we're going to collide into this rock, into somewhere. So in other words, everything's this and
Oh, sorry. It's early, huh?
In that direction right there. So in other words, we're headed somewhere in this direction. So in other words, all of these little spots are actually moving somewhere. But because these are so big in the universe, because our galaxy is gigantic and other galaxies are even larger, it's hard for us as humans to imagine this motion. It's hard for us to realize that this is constantly moving, and it's moving at hundreds of kilometers per second. Well, that's kind of all I wanted to show you in this video. That's exactly what I wanted to understand that these things are moving that way. And one day, some of these galaxies will actually combine with each other and become even larger. And maybe, just maybe, our own Milky Way, because it's going to be so massive when it combines with the Andromeda Galaxy, will reach a
You
point where
open
it's
the
going to
lights
be
at the
extremely
back.
large as well.
Yeah.
So I'll post the link for this in the description. Do play around with this, check it out, and maybe even consider reading this paper because it does show you some really cool facts about the motion of different galaxies. And also, if you want to actually know the names of these galaxies in this particular simulation, the page I posted also has a picture or an image that shows you the names of the nearby galaxies, our own Milky Way, right there in yellow. The Andromeda M31 is in. Let's actually just talk about what this meant for Hubble. Discovering a separate variable in Andromeda meant that he could now look at it and try to estimate its distance, because separate variables allow you to basically use the star variability period, or basically changes in luminosity in comparison to the actual luminosity that you see, to try to estimate the actual distance of this object. And what he's discovered was mind-blowing. He discovered that this distance was in millions of light years. This was actually the first time they discovered an object that was so far away. And anyway, so let's actually go to Andromeda Galaxy and let's take a look at it and try to find that
What's that?
elusive supermassive black hole at its center. So we're going to accelerate toward it at several thousand light years per second.
A boat?
Outside of our own galaxy, and basically.
Is it the boat?
Yeah, I looked at a boat.
Some of the more interesting things about it is that, first of all, this galaxy is about
2,500?
as the Milky Way.
Oh, Ron sent that.
And its number of stars is at least twice as big. So there's
Message
about
me in the
stars
morning
in
if you
the
want to
Andromeda.
come by.
About 400 billion
There is
Yeah.
some other guys interested as
It's
well.
also about twice as big. It's about 225,000 light years across. But in every other sense, as you'll see in a second, it's actually very similar to the Milky Way. As a matter of fact, it looks almost identical. So it's a spiral galaxy, and it's a barred spiral galaxy, meaning that it has a bar going through the middle of it, which you'll see in a second as soon as I come close enough to it. And we're going to turn our view around a little bit just so you can see the bar that's somewhere right here. I think it's somewhere right here. It's kind of hard to see it here. It's a little bit more visible on our own Milky Way. And interestingly, just like the Milky Way, this galaxy has companion galaxies around it. So there's actually two that are right here. This one is known as M10, and this one here is known as M32. And these two galaxies actually experienced a bit of a booming from the Andromeda, because billions of years ago, when it came close enough, it took the light out of them, it took a huge chunk out of them, and combined it into itself. And because of this, this galaxy doesn't really have very straight spiral arms. And spiral arms are kind of related, because these two galaxies actually disturbed Andromeda Galaxy when they were close enough to it. But there are actually 24 companion galaxies around the Andromeda, and you can kind of see some of them orbiting around there. Smaller companions. Our own Milky Way has about 16, whereas this one has 25. And there's actually another large galaxy in the vicinity known as the Triangulum Galaxy. And all three, Triangulum, Milky Way, and Andromeda, form what's known as the local cluster. In total, there's actually about 54 galaxies in our local galactic cluster. And there's the triangle right there. But we're going to be mostly focusing on Andromeda. And that's actually go into the center and try to look for that supermassive black hole. I mean, I actually have to disable some of the activity here, mostly because it's a little super bright. So let's go and look for some kind of a cluster of stars, maybe right here, and try to see if this might contain the supermassive black hole in the middle of this galaxy. Now, the interesting thing about the center or the central region of this galaxy is that it doesn't just have one very bright core, but it seems to contain two. And after years of study, scientists discovered that one of those cores, one of those very bright objects, is the supermassive black hole. That's about 25 times more massive than the supermassive black hole in the center of our own galaxy.
Excuse me.
Star. So this one here is about 100 billion masses long.
Did you put back the ice cream?
By doing the following, we're actually going to maybe cheat a little bit. We're going to select Andromeda and basically look at this arrow right here and go into the direction where it's pointing. So it says it's this way. I think it's possibly in this little cluster over there in front of us. It's got to be inside of that thing. So we're going to go and find that 100 billion massive sun, supermassive black hole. It doesn't actually have a name, which is known as the Andromeda supermassive black hole. And one day, this is actually all going to become part of our own galaxy. Because you may have watched the video where I talked about the collision between the Andromeda and the Milky Way. In about 4.5 massive, the largest possible galaxy in our local cluster. Alright, so the arrow is telling me that it's right here, and I think it's this bright, super bright object right in the middle. So just to check, we're going to accelerate time, and if we see stars orbiting around this super bright object right there, that's got to be the supermassive black hole. So let's go closer to it. Let's check it out. And we can take a look at the stars as well. Yeah, the Andromeda Galaxy is actually moving toward our own Milky Way at a speed of about 140 kilometers per second. And obviously, it's going to accelerate when it comes closer. But right now, it's moving toward us very, 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 very fast. And so, just as I mentioned before, this particular central region has two very bright nuclei. So this is the first one. This is the actual black hole known as M31 central black hole, because M31 is the other name for the Andromeda Galaxy. And I'm not sure this is actually correct. I don't think this is the correct mass here, because it's technically 100 million masses of our own sun. But the actual central region has two of these very interesting bright regions. So one core is right here, and in reality, there's actually another core somewhere right here, formed by all of these thousands of stars orbiting around the black hole. And
Well,
as they
still
orbit
not
around the black hole,
gone.
some of the stars
No.
remain here in the apogee, or the farthest distance of the black hole, and create this very, very bright object. So if you actually look at this with a telescope, what it looks
Really
like
nice outside. Did you go outside? Oh my God, if you stand on the steps,
Yeah.
the stone is still hot from the sun, but the air is cool.
Freeze this.
And so let's actually go a little bit closer to this super massive
You went
black hole.
outside?
Slow down time a little bit just so it looks a little bit nicer. And maybe just go on the inside as well. We're going to go inside of it and make the Andromeda Galaxy and the entire universe disappear behind us. And so here we go. Boom. It's all done. Anyway, so that's really all I wanted to say this video. I just wanted to teach you a little bit about the Andromeda Galaxy, about its properties, about its history, and the importance of the discovery of this really beautiful separate variable star known as D1 in the Andromeda Galaxy that basically changed the understanding of the universe. Before Edwin Hubble discovered D1, we thought that everything, all the stars in our night sky are basically part of the Milky Way. But he realized, and he discovered, and he showed that that was not true. That there were other galaxies out there, and the universe was actually a very, very large place. And I guess before we finish this video, let's actually return back home and take a look at all of this as it looks from Earth, just to remind ourselves how far away this actually is, how much of a distance we actually have to travel to get here. And of course, remind us of the fact that not only is this actually far, but the light that we see coming from the Andromeda Galaxy is actually 2.5 million years old. So everything we see today is basically the history that basically started way, way before humanity even existed. So this is actually how impressive all of this is. Let's read on the central region here and maybe see if we can discover that all the cluster that this came from, or we saw the supermassive black hole. I think maybe it's this one right here, with the bright region in the middle being the supermassive black hole. So first, let me start by showing you the picture. So right here, you're looking at various types of so-called ring galaxies. Now, these are essentially galaxies that seem to have a ring around them. These are very, very massive usually, and the current speculation is that a lot of these galaxies have very young blue and white stars forming on the outskirts and making this kind of a beautiful ring. And essentially, this is what creates this kind of an effect. And nothing seems to be happening in the center, either because there's a lot of really old dark stars, or because everything for some reason moved to the outskirts. Now, the actual most prominent theory right now is that the ring galaxies are essentially formed in a way that, well, basically, in this way. Let me just show you instead of trying to talk about it. Basically, you have two galaxies that collide, and one of them is smaller than the other. When the smaller galaxy passes through the bigger galaxy, in the center you get like an empty space. On the outskirts, you get a bunch of stars. That's the current most prevalent theory explaining these particular beautiful ring galaxies. But some other astronomers think that maybe it's just formed because there's a very large accretion disk on the that its collision of two galaxies, one small, one big, is that maybe it's because of this accretion disk that is there for some reason. And this is actually the galaxy that this person sent me. And this is the Carpool galaxy. Very beautiful, very well-known galaxy that has this really cool look. It actually does kind of look like the Carpool, and apparently it's a lot more massive than we thought. What you see here is actually, it's not showing you the dark side of this galaxy. It doesn't show you the darker stars, and specifically the black holes, binary systems. Basically, there's a lot of binary black hole systems that surround this galaxy, and we can see them in the X-ray, and they actually show up on this particular picture because this is the X-ray imaging, and you can kind of see that there's quite a lot of these really massive, beautiful objects. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, because in one of the previous videos, when I was talking about dark matter,